Hello and welcome to Warblog. This is a, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but this is a development update. Basically I sort of did what I shouldn't have really, and well, I've done it now, and so I put in siege things. Right. First of all, I'm just going to look at the attack system. Just a regular attack. Okay. However, here we have a full surround of zones of control. So when I select both of these, I get the siege option. Now if I select that, I'll do a siege. It's still very rudimentary. What I've just noticed there, that if I unselect it and then I click attack, it's actually still selected, so it'll still be a siege. So I've got to sort of do a few things, and there's a few other little problems. For example, if I had lots of units around here, I could do a siege with 2 units to make sure I've got that surround, do some damage, and then attack with all the other units, and that's sort of not really what it's about. I don't know how to stop that, but it's not really a big problem. Just, no one playing the game really, and as long as people are playing in the spirit of things, I think that that'd be less relevant. So just to sort of make sure we've got it all covered. Essentially, we're trying to siege these places now. To siege a place, they've got to be in a fort or one of these fortification markers. You can't siege someone when they're not inside a fort. So that's the. I was going to do it with cities, but I decided just with forts because forts are pretty tough. The things with forts, they are actually specific features, although sometimes they can be lines of fortifications. But a city can be sort of quite sprawling, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's well fortified. Things like Mosul at the moment, although they've got it sort of sieged, they've got enough resources in there to sort of almost hold out. Although it's the same thing, it's just basically it doesn't sort of make as much sense, because if all this mountain was a city, for example, I could surround all 3 of these hexes, but I'd have to be in there, or I'd have to be in all these hexes, and it'd just be so complicated. At the moment, figuring out one hex is, took me all evening to do that. So anyway, I'm going to try this. Now, bear in mind, their depressions are all 0, and my dug-in is, well, you won't see it, but I'll explain in a bit. Now, I should get rid of that. This doesn't mean anything, so that's going to be quite misleading. Oh, look, that would have been a good attack, wouldn't it? It would have been a DR. But I've got siege selected, so now he's on 1.4, 0.1, and 1. I've bummed and ahed about how to do the damage, and to be quite honest, I'm still not undecided. Initially I did it 1 plus 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 or 0.4, but in this one I've got the maximum, which is 1.4, and also the minimum, 0.1. So, because of course the thing is, if they just sit there, next turn they will recover. But he won't recover fully, he'll go to 0.4. So it sort of comes down to, is it going to be worth it in the long run? Because I mean, if I did 0.1 on him every turn, it would be pointless, because he'd never get anything that would allow me to attack him, and that is equally pointless. So I might adjust the figures, but I don't want to make it so powerful that it becomes sort of the default action. Now here I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to sort of do that. I mean, the thing is, on a one-to-one, you know, you might have wanted to attack. The other thing to sort of say is that because they've got a siege situation, I've elected that they don't have to have every hex surrounded. It's all really about stopping supplies getting there. Or they don't have supply rules. It's really an easy way of like trying to deal with this situation. So we'll end that turn, and equally, I'm going to assume that they're not going to want to attack out. Now, to be quite honest, they could, because they've got 3, so it would be 3-to-1. But the thing is, all these irregulars would retreat. But for sake of argument, I'm just going to move on to the next turn. So we've got another unit here. Now that will give me the full surround, in theory. That might have been another DR. So that's 0.8, 0.2, 0.8. So that's sort of not that great. But the thing is, if I had artillery, then I could maybe put that in on top and get a bit extra. Here. Oh, just another thing. They're all dug in 1. And they're dug in 1 because when you attack, although their movement has gone to 0, they're still eligible for becoming dug in. So as long as that's what they keep doing, their dug in rating will go up and they will become dug in, which will really help their defences a little, you know, from counter attacks. The other thing to just sort of say, I'm sort of thinking aloud because I only really thought this today for this particular scenario. There's nothing stopping these units from getting out, but they would be in a zone of control, but they'd be losing their fortification, so they can fight their way out. Obviously, if we surrounded them completely with units, then they'd have to fight their way out properly. But they can sort of just move out, so it's not that sort of siege. It's a bit like, you know, the Syrian conflicts at the moment, where they give them a way out, and then, you know, quite a lot of way out. Has it got any movement? Anyway, so let's see what we can do here. So I'm going to do another siege. So you're now at 0.8, 0.9, 0.6. So to be quite honest, I'll probably have to tinker with the results. In fact, 1 minute. Okay. I've gone and splodged that thing over the top there, which is frustrating. There we go, sort of moved it down. So they've sort of both moved. So we'll go on to the next turn. Oh, I have changed the odds now, so it's about 0.4 to 1.5. So now I am just playing the siege options on this, just because I want to mimic the historic events. 0.5, 0.5, 1.4. Now they're dug in as well now, and these should probably become dug in once they do this assault. In advance is depression 0, 0, 0. .7, 0.9, 1, so nothing of any worth there either. Now adding more units in won't make any difference. I'm still debating that, but that's the way it is at the moment. Okay, so he's at 0, 0.4, so that's the one we want to get something decent on. .8, that was good. 0.4, 1.2. So these two have now got the potential to We get a little more next time. Now, just to make it clear, if I unselect that one, because this hex is not in there, it's actually working quite well. I don't need to put him in, but I am. Point 0.5, 0.9, 0.8. Point 4, 1.2, 2.2. So now this unit here is now at that stage where it's starting to become a problem. The 2.2, he can't recover less than 0.2 anyway, but he can only recover 1. So whatever happens next time, it's going to become a little more serious. And here we've got to start off with nothing, nothing, nothing. So a very unsuccessful siege at the moment. 0.6, so that will recover. 0.5, 1.1. So only this unit potentially. But the other thing to bear in mind is that although they can recover, that assumes they don't do anything. I mean, if they decided to attack out, they would keep their fatigues. So they have to do nothing in order to just maintain the potential of sort of weathering it all out. I'm going to put them all in. 1.6, 0.6, 2.3. So it's very slow. Nothing, nothing. 0.1. 1.5, 1.4, 1.4. So that was a good row. I mean, basically all those they were all 1.3 or more, and 2 of those would really make a lot of difference. Now, it doesn't make the most exciting war game, I know, but it's an interesting way of doing it. Two, 0.9, 2.3. One 1.5, 1.9, 1.3. One more round. Two 2.4, 1, 2.1. I mean, it's as exciting as a siege, but 2, 2, 1.6. So they've sort of recovered. So it's very slow and very painful. But the thing is, it's sort of, well, there will be reinforcements. I mean, turn 8, there should be reinforcements now. Where are the reinforcements? Okay, see you later. I've adjusted the siege rules a little, just to sort of maybe work them through. Basically, a bit vague on the maths, sort of. I mean, I'm not vague on it, I know what it is. Basically, you get more for having additional units. So when you do a siege on this unit, you will get between 0.4 and 1.4 depressions against each unit. So chances are you're going to get less than 1, which means they're going to recover. So you have to be lucky continually. Like a sort of. I mean, the more luck you get, the easier it will be to sustain the losses. But generally speaking, you should get higher. But if you've got an additional unit, such as this one, instead of 0.4 to 1.4, it's 0.5 to 1.5. So on this one, it's 0.6 to 1.6. So there's actually quite a good chance of getting more than 1 each time. Now we'll go on to the next turn just to see how that sort of works out, and you'll actually see we've got the, if you remember this scenario, the reinforcements here appear. But on this one, let's have a look at what we can do here now. So we've got 0, 0, 0 after a lot of siege activity. I don't know why that is. I think I might have pressed a few buttons without doing the siege, and they just recovered. 1.2, 0.5, 1.4. Okay. And here, where we've got a little more, starting off at 0.7, 0.7. So it would have been a 1.2, 0.9, and 1.2. And just to maybe try a few variants. So 1.2, 0.5, I've done that. Okay, in that turn. Oh, that's because of the dodgy turn thing. Bring them on a turn early because I know they won't work on the turn they're on. So here come those units. We're not going to worry about those. So, see whether we can get a little higher on this. So 0.9, 0, 0.9 with the full surround. Two, 1, 2.2. What I'm trying to do is to not make it too powerful so that you can just sit there and siege the place, but to make it eventually in the favour of the besieger. 1.9. Zero, 0.9. .2, 1.5, 1.9. One other thing I have done, hold on a minute. 1.7, 1.8, 2.1. For example, if I set these, and then I decide to siege, and then I say, no, I don't want to. But actually I want to do an assault. It's not selected, it's deselected it once you unselect it, so it means you can chop and change. You don't have to sort of unflag it and then not realise you've still left it flagged. Well, this would be common sense in a fully commercial game. And anyway, 0.2, 0.5, 0.9. Okay, well that's obviously an error because I just did the attack. Yeah. Just going to show there's not a lot of point to sieging when you can just attack them. I'm trying to sort of make it so that sieging is sort of something that can be doable, isn't going to sort of just be so simple. The thing that I've not managed to really, so 3.5, 2.1, 2.2, so we're sort of getting there with this unit. The thing that I don't want to do is to make it too powerful. To make it sort of, it is a slow grind, but not sort of instantaneous, but I think I've pretty much got my head around it now. Let's just put these guys back in the fort. Idiots. Okay. And I think the thing with the siege option 2.2, 2.5, 2.9. The thing with the siege option is that I think I want it to sort of be replaced the sort of the all or nothing type attacks that you can otherwise do. Although it might sort of seem fun, you know, 1-to-1 and you get a 1 and it's fantastic. There's quite a few of these attacks where you think it's actually quite critical and there's no way I really want to actually risk getting that attack or retreat option, because you lose a lot of depression and it just all goes pear-shaped, and that's a sort of factor of risk that I don't think you could always really take. 3.9, 2.3. I think I'm going to leave it at that, but I will upgrade it just a little. Okay, so I have actually updated. So it's now 5 to 15 plus the difference. So these will be on 6 to 16. Well, 0.6 to 1.6, and these will be on 5.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. They're always going to get a 1. So a false around will always get you something up to it's basically 5 to 15, so 0.5 to 1.5. So it's going to be a 1.7. For these, it's going to be 1.7 up to 2.1. So all of a sudden it seems too much, but all I added was 0.1 to both sides, both factions. 2.9, 1.3, 1. And again, I think the thing is, it seems it's you know, small units could decimate, you know, really big stacks. If you really did have big stacks in here, you could just beat all these units up without a problem. You wouldn't be in a siege. Siege will only ever come into effect, and it's probably true in real life, where the odds are just fractionally in neither party's favour. 4.6, 3, 2.9. Okay, I'll leave it at that. So that's siege. That's siege warfare. As I was just sort of halfway in the middle of saying, I think I can remember where we finished saying things, but what was I saying? Can't remember now. Yeah, siege situations are sort of slightly peculiar. I mean, maybe not so much so, but you have to have that fine balance between the defender and the attacker, both finding it not worthwhile attacking the other. So usually, obviously, that's the defender with a fairly low number of units, and the attacker with not enough to make an overwhelming assault. I mean, it goes without saying, but I've always liked those sorts of situations and odds because I think they're quite common just in normal engagements. When you look at these normal situations, you sort of think, well, you know, they didn't have the sort of 70 to 1 odds, and sometimes you take a risk and a gamble, but I just sort of think that there's a, I think I don't know. I think just if you've got a front line, you know, there's going to be a lot of 1-to-1, 1-to-2s, no, not 1-to-1, 2-to-1 type battles. The whole idea, I mean, if you've got the sort of situation where you can readily get 4 or 5-to-1, you're probably going to win anyway. This situation where you've got a whole series of 1-to-1 and 2-to-1 type assaults probably means you've got a fairly well balanced set of opposing forces. But here, you know, it's only really going to take effect on those situations, and this was historically a sort of siege engagement. And then what I might do is play this just in a moment, totally messing my evening up, work-wise, but sort of think and just see how it plays. I get the sort of feeling that I'd like to play this a few times. Sort of one maybe sort of just attacking the forts and going for those 1-to-1s and seeing whether I get a DR or get an AR, because that's what we're trying to avoid, the AR result, and whether or not it's actually worth carrying out a siege, and whether or not it's worth carrying out a siege for a few turns and then doing the attack, which is, I think, is what the whole idea is. And I think once you get them to 50% demoralised, especially when the morale rules come in, maybe in a couple of years' time, you know, it's not as though you want to just keep sieging them until the end. You siege them until they're, you know, weak enough for you to attack. And again, obviously, you know, this unit could actually just walk out of here, but they would be losing the objective. And so I think I've got a reasonable balance. And considering I didn't even think about doing siege warfare until today, a few hours ago. I mean, attrition was something I've always wanted to be doing, and I haven't done it yet. And to be quite honest, it could probably fit in quite well with the mechanics I put in here and the sort of the workflow. For example, I could just put in another button that's always present down here, where you get that little siege thing that says attrition, and you just click the attrition, and basically it just means you don't commit your whole forces, and you would be attacking at a quarter value, but you don't get the option to advance, but you don't get the option to attack and retreat. There's no exchanges. The only thing that you can do is to cause a small degree of attrition on the opposing side, and that would be probably about a similar amount to what we're dealing with here, although I did think about it, and it'd probably be less to some extent. What you'd be doing is just hoping that they would move away, or because the thing is, if you're doing attrition against them, they'll probably be doing attrition against you, and so both sides will not be recovering their depressions. I mean, if one side's sitting still and recovering the depressions, and the other side's constantly hitting them, it's an odd situation. You know, why is the other side just sitting there? But you know, you could play it like that. But I think in attrition, what you're saying is both sides don't want to attack each other, but they both want to treat each other, etc., etc. So I might do that next at some point. Anyway, there's another 15 minutes of my life gone, so I'll upload that for prosperity forever more on the YouTubes. I wonder how long YouTube will last, for all eternity, to the year 50 million trillion billion. People will still be watching these videos on YouTube. So fantastic. So I'll speak to you later. Cheers, bye. Okay, this is an addition to the siege video. I realise obviously that if I've got a unit outside, that breaks the surround. And so, as you can see here, if I select these units, I don't get the siege option. We go back to the game, end the turn, move this unit away, end that turn, come back to the MLA turn, siege, I get the siege option. Might be some errors still here and there because of the things that I've just done, but in theory now that all works, in the sense that it actually makes it really interesting, but because I can break the siege just by moving there. So when I did that previous game, when I actually moved my units near to this fort, that actually meant that you couldn't carry out that siege action, which is quite a powerful action when you consider it's sort of for nothing. And so what I could have maybe done was try to get as close to that fort as possible as early on. But what you can do, for example, I've got 3 units in there, I could just move one out of here into there, and that would break the siege. But the problem is then that unit would get trashed by these irregulars, who would get a 5-to-1 against them. So it actually brings in a very new dimension that I think is quite interesting, because that mechanized unit was quite tough, and on its own it could probably hold its own against the irregulars, although he could be a little, could have done with being a little tougher. He was a little more vulnerable. In fact, he was with a stack. He was attacked at 3.9 strength and decimated because of that. But so essentially, that's an addition. So I'm not going to sort of do the work throughs again, but if you can break that zone of control, and obviously there's quite a weak surround, so the damage is going to be fairly weak, but if you're lucky you can make it work in the long run, but you can break it with just placing one unit here or there. So for example, if they had the surround there and there, you could actually move into the mountains and get the hills and get the defensive terrain of the get a bonus for the defensive terrain there. And so it does bring in a whole bunch of new things, but I'm going to see if I can add this one to that other video, and just wanted to say that really. Obviously at this stage, if you were to play it, probably won't because no one plays them, but if you were, there might be some sort of silly little errors where suddenly you can besiege units that aren't in. That was not what I wanted to do. Let me just do this whilst we're actually talking. It's like hitting these little rabbit things that whack the mole game. Every time I do one thing, some other problem comes up. This is not a fort. Let me see if I can do this. Well, I whacked that mole, so as you can see, it's no longer. I whacked that mole. So what does that mean? Well, it's clear what that means, because what happens now when we go back here, move him there, for example, and try and get that. Oh yeah, we'll get that. Okay. And then we come in here and go like this, and we've got that, and that works. It all works. Back to the game. Okay, it all looks like it's working now. So as I said, it brings in a fantastic new dimension. It's amazing, actually. I mean, I know it's maybe not the most exciting game on the planet, and I was thinking just a while back how complex some of these three-dimensional virtual reality super video games actually are. I mean, I think what I'm doing is complex, but it's probably not. But these big games have big teams, and it makes it easier for them working as big teams. But I think also more importantly, They don't actually write the code that makes the things work. They use things like engines, and to be quite honest, it dumbs down everything. Although you can't, it's sort of, it dumbs down, and but it makes smarter as well. Because people don't know how to write the games, they don't know how to write the video things. They're all black boxes, and this is why a lot of these games, they all look exactly the same, because they're actually using the same gaming engine. Especially a lot of the hex games. I mean, there are a lot of, especially the artificial intelligence, and some of these, I can't remember what it is, but there's a particular platform I used to write games with. I looked at it, and I began to realise why so many games look the same, and a lot of Flash games, they have modules in there where you can, you just press a button and you add a counter, and you add something to it, an attribute like a move attribute, so it can move 5 spaces on something. So it's sort of, all the stuff has been done, so people just add a lot of creativity, and that's why how a lot of these, you see a lot of these Flash games, when you actually start to look more closely at a lot of them, you realise they're just home projects that people have done and thrown together, a bit like this. But, so all I'm saying is it's not as complicated, but that said, it amazes me that it actually works in the way it does. I mean, it is excessively complex in my opinion. It's far more complex than just something simple and easy to do. And adding these siege things, it just gets more and more complex. And if it works, it works. We added quite a few things. There's still a lot more to do. The air power, I started, I haven't finished it. Bridge making, this little thing. Bit by bit, things are being added. So I don't know what I'm saying really, just saying it's complicated. But I am looking forward to seeing some of these siege things in other games, to see how it works out. It's like a lot of things. I mean, leaders don't actually work at the moment for some reason. I think I know why, but I just never got around to using leaders. They just weren't really up to much. I've got them in a few games. Too much faffing around really to sort of try and put your leaders with your troops to try and figure out whether they're in command. I mean, not that they won't be in command, but whether they get the command bonus from being in command. Maybe I should look into that and resurrect it. But yeah. So anyway, that's that. I'm going to try and add this, and that will be it. Hopefully. Cheers, mate.